I'm excited to have Jessica Yoder with us today. She's a great associate in the business world for us, and we serve a lot of the same clients. Excited to learn to know more about her and what she does in her business to be successful and serve her clients. Jessica, I'm happy to have you here today. Tell us a little bit about yourself and what brings you to this point of your career.
I'm Jessica Yoder, and I'm a realtor with Bontrager Realtors, and I'm born and raised a builder's daughter. My dad is Kevin Hosteller of Hosteller Building and Development, and I started at Bontrager Realtors when I was 17 as the receptionist, and then I became an assistant for one of our partners, worked for him for about 12 years, Jeff Dill, and then I went on my own in 2012. I do a lot. We represent my dad, as well as we work with Stook Builders and some other builders in the area. And one thing that makes me different than other realtors is I've been in this industry my whole entire life. My dad, I always make the joke, my dad doesn't like it, but I always tell people my dad wanted a son. He didn't get a son. I'm an only child. So he made me learn construction at an early age. And I think that's why I'm successful today, is because of my dad and my grandma. My grandma's one of my huge people that I admire in my life. And so I think that's why I've gotten to be where I have been. So I have a sales partner. Her name is Sarah Bigley. We both live northwest of Wellman. And my husband farms. And we have two boys, Keelan, who's a sophomore at Mid-Prairie, and Jason, who's in 6th grade at the middle school at Mid-Prairie. And Sarah's husband is a disability attorney in Iowa City. They have a little girl named Hannah. Sarah has the similar background as I did. She started in real estate at 17, just like I did. She was a closer at Bontrager Realtors for many years, and then I took her as my sales partner. So our market is a huge market that we cover. We cover Johnson County, we cover Washington County, Iowa County, and Keokuk County. So last year we closed $21.5 million, 112 units. So
awesome.
Yeah.
That's a lot of fun to hear. Yeah. Kind of the process of learning the real estate trade from the bottom or the beginning to the end. We're going to get into a couple of fun questions, and we'll get back to the business side of it. And I don't know if you've had a warning on this or not. So if you don't want to answer them or can't answer them, that's fine. We'll move to another one. What's the picture on your phone's wallpaper?
My husband and my boys.
All right.
Yep.
What fashion trend would you kill if you could?
The face mask right now.
You're ready to see a smile?
I'm ready to see a smile, and yes.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah.
That's people have tried to get creative with those, but at the end of the day, like to see a face and a smile. What's the best piece of advice you've ever been given?
Follow your gut and follow your heart. Yep.
I was going, another question we were going to ask, just to kind of move on, is how you got into real estate. Obviously, you did at a young age. You started at 17. Was that just something already in high school, or like in between summers you started working there?
Actually, I was working for my dad at the time. He was a partner at Franz Construction in Iowa City at the time. And Gene Krager, the founder of our company, came in. I remember the day. It was November of 97. And he said, "Kevin, I'm looking for a bubbly receptionist at Bontrager." And my dad says, "Take Jessica. She wants to get into real estate. She would love to be at Bontrager." And he goes, "Well, I don't want to take her from you." And that afternoon, the partners of Bontrager Realtors called me and interviewed me. And I remember walking in the front door of Bontrager. At the time, it was a new building. And they have these big steps. And I remember walking up, I'm like, oh my goodness, I would love to work here. What are the odds of me getting this job here? And I was just nervous. Here I am, this 17-year-old, just started college. And I'm like, there's no way they're going to hire me. There's no way. And so I went in and I was kind of shy that day. And
that's interesting.
Yeah, I don't know.
Unusual.
Unusual. And but that was the best job ever. I loved it because I dealt with all the buyers, the sellers calling in. It was a different market back then, and the trends were different. But it was a fun job.
Okay. So it was the summer you were out of high school going into college when you got that.
Yep.
Awesome. Is there, and you've probably kind of answered this question, but is there someone in your life that's influenced you to get into this business?
My dad.
Okay.
My dad. Definitely my dad. He always says that, he tells people, my daughter is a natural born realtor, and she can look at houses and tell you what needs to be done with that house, getting it ready for the market. She will put her whole heart into it. But it's definitely my dad.
Okay. And just because of the building trade that he was in, and could just pick up your personality and tendencies. How many years have you been in real estate? I won't ask your age, but I'm going to ask you. Somebody can add this up here.
24.
24? Okay.
Yeah, I've been at Lubbock for 24 now.
And so that, I mean, you just alluded to this earlier. The trends and what was going on then was very different.
Yep.
Tell us a little bit about that.
So back then, we didn't have, like, everything came through the front desk at the time. So all the calls and everything like that, we were dealing a lot with the sellers, scheduling showings. It was a lot of paper advertising back then.
Yes.
And now it's online. And back then, the staff would type up the purchase agreement, so I had to help with that a lot. We had to help create flyers. And just at the time, a lot of people they would come into the office, to make appointments. There was no Zillow. There was no online websites.
Right.
It was the old-fashioned MLS book, the multiple listing service book, and it came out about every 2 weeks. And when you got that book, it was like the Bible. It was, it had all the listings of the different areas in there, and it was really cool, to look at. But at the time, I mean, it's still a people industry, but it was just a different people industry.
More direct interaction. So that was how you were notified or knew of what other realtors had available?
Yep.
It was none of this online.
Yep. And cell phones were really just starting to come out where everybody had them.
Right.
And so that was another interesting thing.
As far as in terms of right now, I know we're in what I guess a hot market's what you call it. There's lack of inventory and things are selling quickly. What are some of the trends you've seen through the process from when you got into it to now? I mean, because it wasn't that way.
No. Interest rates are really low now. There's different programs out there now available, like their Rural Development Loan, which is a fantastic program. A lot of people are switching from rent because it can be cheaper for them to buy versus rent, depending on where they're looking. And I mean, Sarah and I are doing a lot of office exclusive listings because there is such a lack of inventory right now. Yeah.
The other thing that I'm starting to hear of and see a little bit is that people are almost getting into bidding wars.
Yes.
Sometimes.
Yes.
Sometimes the prices are inflating. Are you seeing that fairly consistently? Yes. Is there a certain price range?
So I had one here. This was a 0 lot on the east side of Iowa City. There were 13 offers on it. And actually, my buyer is a realtor from Northwest Iowa. And I originally got him on another property, and he goes, I can't do your market, Jessica. Your market is so fast. I said, yes, it is. So we did virtual showings. And then he actually put an offer on this property, sight unseen, no inspections. It was cash, and he went $13,000 over asking. We actually were not the highest one, believe it or not, but we were cash, and we had the proof of funds to verify it. And he never made it subject to viewing it or anything. He put his 100% trust in me as an agent. And that goes a long ways. And that's what we're doing right now is a lot of people are putting their trust in us. He finally looked at the 0 lot here about 2 weeks ago, and he goes, you did good, Jess. You did good. He goes, I'm so glad I trusted you through this whole thing. And because everything we were looking at, he kept missing.
Yeah.
And so things aren't just necessarily coming down to price, but they're coming down to who has more earnest money, who's not doing inspections, who can close quicker, if it's a local lender, if it's a cash buyer. So we're seeing different things all across the board. And then like last week, I had one that I put an offer in. I was one of 9. My buyer was well over asking, not subject to the sale. and we still didn't get it.
Yeah.
And my buyer was doing inspections, and that's very risky to pull the inspections. But, they obviously didn't get it.
Right.
So,
but they were trying to protect their investment as well. So I just would guess, though, from what you're seeing, I mean, obviously there's a lot more realtors or competitors now just because of the market, so it's attractive. I also remember some years back where folks that were realtors found other jobs. So how have you seen that transition? Because it hasn't really affected you in a negative way as far as slowing down your growth. It's just you've had to adapt.
We've at the beginning of COVID, I remember telling Sarah, our goal at the beginning of last year was 18 million. And then COVID hit, and I said, Sarah, we're going to be lucky to do 8 million. And she goes, just relax, Jess, just one step at a time. And we pivoted and we made changes. We changed stuff with our marketing. We changed different platforms we were using. And I said, it's go time. And through the whole entire COVID, we didn't slow down. We were out there. We were going. And that's, I think, why we are ahead versus some other realtors. There's a lot of realtors that are getting in the industry right now. There are 400 plus realtors in our market. And right now, Sarah and I are number 10 or 11, but who's counting? But it's having diversity.
Right.
Changing your market, pivoting where you need to go.
Right.
And that's what it's about. We don't go to Cedar Rapids.
Right.
We focus on the areas that we are good at. We've had clients want us to go to Muscatine. We had a client wanting us to go to Muscatine this week. I said, you know what, guys, I'm sorry. That's out of our area, but I can get you a good realtor that can help you. Mm-hmm. And we stay in our markets and we go and we expand.
Work those. Mm-hmm. Okay. I just know there's so much change and so much of that. Whenever you get something that's working great, you get a lot of people that want to get in on it. Interesting enough, I've had construction folks in multiple states that I work with. Some of them froze up and just kind of shut down for a month, and they were happy to come back and meet their previous year's numbers. And I've had others with 100 and 200% growth.
Yep.
And they were just capitalizing on what the others were doing, or what the others were not doing, actually. Tell us a little bit about your journey from the beginning to now. And when I say that, I'm thinking more in terms of, obviously, when you start as a receptionist and then to go get into becoming a realtor, I mean, there's some things that you had obstacles or things you had to overcome. I mean, obviously you have to be licensed. Were there times you've wondered if you're doing the right thing?
So when I decided to leave my position at the front desk, I had got my license, and I put it inactive for about a year. I had promised the partners that I would give them plenty of time to try and find somebody. And when Jeff Dill came to me, it was in July, he came to me and said, Jess, would you ever want to be my assistant? And I'm like, yes, I would love to work for Jeff Dill. Jeff Dill has energy. He is successful. I know too many people that have gotten in the industry and couldn't make it. And I did not want to be one of those. I'm like, all right, Jeff, he's a top producer in the Iowa City market, works with several builders. So that was just, I'm like, and it was still Leberkrieger.
Yeah.
So I remember telling Gene Krieger that I said, I'm going to officially leave the front desk. It was in July. And I said, I'm going to go work for Jeff Dill in January. And so it gives you plenty of time to find a bubbly receptionist. But when I went to work for Jeff, it was totally different. It was a different energy. It was a different go. It was no more 8 to 5.
Right.
It was, not always 6 or 7 days a week, but it was close.
Right.
And a lot of open houses because back then we did open houses.
Right.
And several different builders that he works with. I mean, Jeff he's a top producer in the Iowa City market. And so it was learning the different clientele and the different marketing, which was different than the front desk, and always being on call. And that was different. One reason I wanted to go on my own is I knew I could do it. I wanted to have growth within myself.
Right.
I wanted to have success within myself.
Okay.
And I knew that I had already had some of my own business when I worked with Jeff. And I'm like,
Right.
that was just the next level. I couldn't imagine selling real estate anywhere else, to be honest with you.
So you brought up an interesting point, and I didn't even think about it, but that was open houses. It's just an example of something that changed. I mean, you don't do probably any of those because there's nothing really on the market very long anymore.
If a seller wants us to do an open house, we will do it. But we are not doing open houses right now. Number one, it brings nosy people through, and it brings people that are not necessarily qualified.
Right.
And or it brings people who just want to see what the seller's home looks like.
Right.
And so we haven't been doing them unless a seller wants us to do them.
Okay.
We do some new construction, but that's to more promote the development or
Right.
the builder.
Right.
So
more it has to do with how you stage the home and
Marketing.
market it than what it does before.
Yeah.
So I know you've talked about the whole beginning process, working with Jeff, going on your own. What's one or two things that motivate you to keep growing your business?
To be a pillar in the real estate community, to be respected by my other realtors, and to provide for my family.
Okay.
Yeah.
One thing that's interesting a little bit, you've talked about bringing Sarah on, and I know the both of you well enough to know. And one thing I think's unique that I enjoy looking at when I look at businesses all the time, working with them. She has a total different set of talents than from what you have, and maybe talk about a little bit how that works together.
Sarah is definitely the quiet one to the two of us, and she's definitely the more organized one. And I always like to say it's like the Devil Wears Prada, because I come in, I'm flying in there, I'm throwing stuff down on our desk, and she's like, okay, hold on, Jess. But she keeps us organized. She does all of our marketing, follow-ups. I'm primarily out there with the people, which I love. I love being out with people. I love the customer service, and I love the interaction. And she's the one who's behind the scenes, making sure all of our closing files are up to date, making sure the contingency releases, all that stuff that are due,
Are finished.
are finished. Yeah. And like I said, she's definitely the quiet to the two of us. One thing that has been nice is we'd go to every appointment together, and sometimes we'd get a little sidetracked.
Such as closings, that type of thing.
Yeah, we'd go to closings or appointments, and we'd get a little sidetracked, and let's stop and jazz it up here real quick if we're in Washington. And so she feels like now that we're not together with everything with COVID, so she can be home more with Hannah a little bit, that we're more organized, and we're able to expand our markets.
And maybe a little higher production too, because you're not doubling up.
Correct. Yep.
Same. I mean, you keep working towards growth and things like that. Are there industry people you follow to get ideas?
Yes. I'm part of the Tom Ferry Network, which is it's a real estate network, and I get a lot of useful information from them. And I do coaching with them as well, weekly with them. So, and I've got a lot of great ideas. They're across the country, so I do a lot of different agent-to-agent referrals.
Okay.
I just did one from Kansas City. Somebody coming to Iowa City. Just did one from Chicago coming to Iowa City. So it's nice to have those connections in other parts of the country. And there are different times that they will call and ask me something, what a trend in the Midwest is compared to where they are. Right. And that's really nice to have that relationship as well.
Right. Mm-hmm. Any closing statement or promotional statement you'd like to make?
We put our whole heart in it. There are some transactions, Gary, that I have not made anything because of the whatever the situation is. We take care of the client through thick and thin, and we look out for their best interest in the beginning, especially with a seller, by preparing them for the market. we don't push first-time home buyers into something they shouldn't be buying. So,
well, one thing I know is you guys are very hardworking.
We have a lot of energy.
And sometimes aggressive, but it's usually, I mean, it's always in a positive way. Yeah. It's probably a attribute that serves you well in this climate, because if you relax at all, I mean, you're just going to lose out on properties and getting things done. So
I think one reason people should work with Jessica and Sarah is we're driven. We're driven for our clients. We want what's best for them. And we always look out for their interests and not our interests.
Awesome. So tell us, as we wrap up, how can people find you? Where do they reach out to you?
You can visit our website, which is jessicayoder.com, or you can call me. My cell phone is 319-430-3311, and Sarah's is 319-389-2517. So.
Awesome.
Yep.
Well, we appreciate having you here today. It's been fun to visit with you and learn some about your background and how you got into the business and kind of what motivates you to grow and stay on that growth path. Thanks for tuning in and watching this podcast with Jessica Yoder. We've really enjoyed and look forward to doing this one. If you like this video, please go out and subscribe to our page and hit the like button and share it with others.